Hello.
Hey,
Hey.
hi. Hi. Let's wait for the others. Let me record my screen and share my screen. Okay. Almost there. Henrik is also attending from the bootcamp, online bootcamp that we did a couple months back. He's also wants to see how I'm using typerepo to create something, and today we're gonna probably not work on Himalaya Jeep, but start something from scratch with typerepo. Just wanted to show what you can do with the current typerepo. I'm also working very hard on a new version. We're getting very far with it, and authentication is almost done. And yes, Henrik, I'm recording already. Don't worry. So yeah, let's see if Guillermo is joining. Then yeah, good timing. Hey, good morning. Okay,
Hello, good day.
good morning. Okay, so to start, the type repo can be found at first you can go to typerepo.com, where you also have all the documentation. It's still work in progress, of course, but you already know that. Then you can click on the little cat here, which leads to GitHub. Yeah, that's the repo that you can just clone like this. So whenever I want to do a new project with type repo, I can do it like this: git clone, and then the type repo, and then let's call it to-do app or something. Let's make it to-do app at first. I don't have a lot of other inspiration. Yeah, Deepak. Deepak, good evening. We are already started, although it's not even 5 past. What time is it? 5 past now? Yeah, let's start. Maybe Suyok will join later. Okay, then I'll just start. So I just cloned it into the folder to do app. So then I'm going there and I open my VS Code in that folder, and I'll close this one. So now we have, a new version. Okay, cool. Yeah. So the first thing when we start a new type repo is running yarn to make sure that everything is installed and the mono repo is resolved. And yeah, that works. That's great. And this is still the type repo that has Himalaya Jeep included, which is an example app that we have been working on, Henrik, So you know that this is not part of type repo itself, but it's kind of an example with what you can do with it and how it works. Then there's modules here. You don't need to look at them that much, but they are used underwater a lot. And the documentation is here, which can also be found on the website. The database is here, which you can just see the files of the database instead of, you can also look in the database user interface, but you don't need to. So the first step after you installed everything with Yarn, I believe, unless I forget something, but I believe we can already run this. As you can see, it runs now on 42,000, the server. So yeah, that I didn't say it out loud, but I just went to the folder function server and then run yarn dev there. After that, I'm going to run the database web folder and run yarn dev there. And after that, I can also run Markdown Reader web. And basically anything that you can find in the apps folder, you can run yarn dev in. That's the idea. So that's easy to remind yourself of. So for example, this is the database user interface, and as you can see, there's two models here, the Jeep type and the location type, which will help you to easily see what's inside of the database, and you can also edit it and everything. So that's the database UI, and that's what it's for. If we make a new model, it will appear here. Then there is the Markdown Reader, which is kind of the same thing as the website, as you can see. But here you can also, if you write new packages and you want to add them to the docs, you can do that with your own. You can make your own docs with this, basically. You don't have to call it type repo, you can change the name, you can do anything. So that's what it's for. And then the Himalaya Jeep, it's also running here, but we're not going to do that one today. This is still an older version, but yeah. Now I'm going to show you how I would start a new project. So we can leave the database UI and the Markdown Reader open and the server. And then I'm just going to check something.
Hey, Reese.
Yeah?
Sorry, yeah, I guess I didn't pay attention, but with the Markdown Reader, what's it for? Why do we need to have it open?
I'm leaving it open so I can see the docs that are being generated based on the packages that I make. So if I want to see the result of the functions I write, and I write documentation for it in the file itself, then it will be parsed, and then it will show up in the Markdown Reader if you tell the Markdown Reader to do that. So as you can see here, there's oh, actually not here, sorry. There's a public bundle config file here, and that has a bundle Markdown Reader config where you can change which packages you want to show in the documentation. So now it's these ones, they are from type repo, but if we remove them and we add our own, it will be our own documentation, basically.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can, you can change the name of your project and everything. You can, yeah. So so that's what it's for. It's just a useful tool to stay documented and keep it very clear what's going on in your project.
Nice.
Yeah. So now first of all, I'm going to the packages folder and I'm going to create a new operation, and it should be possible with npx new operation, and we can call it to-do types, and it's a common JS package, but I'm not sure if I changed the convention here already, so let me check in the operation classification interface. No, it's still called JS in this one. But I changed the convention, so next week I do a new release and then it will be called CommonJS, CJS. But anyway, now I'm running this command, and now you will see that the package appears here in the packages folder, right? So now let's start with a file called types. And also it's nice, by the way, to know this command, npx dev, which will help you to watch all your operations and all your changes. So every time you make a change, it will be immediately indexed. So let's start with a kind of a plan. What do we want to make? So let's make a simple application, front end and back end, where you can have a to-do list, where you can add to-dos, mark them as done. So let's make that possible. So we can make a type, or let's call it, an interface. Sorry, I'm a bit slow. To do model extends default model type. Or let's call it just simply to do. And default model types is a type that comes from the model types. And you can find it there. Default model type, that just means that it's a model, it's a database model, okay? So the to-do needs a description, a status, and author, and then I don't know, we'll see later if we want to add something to it. As I save the file, you can immediately see that something's happening here. It's going to install the to-do types. It's indexing it, and it will create a database folder here with all the information about the code that we wrote. We'll also create the index file here after it has indexed everything. And then that creates very useful information inside of the database that we can use in our user interfaces. So let's make also another package. Let's call it npx new operation to do functions, and it's sorry, I kind of forgot. It's a node, so that's the default. So we don't need to do anything. But those are that means it's a node operation. That means it can also execute backend functionalities like file system, for example, or database. So here we can, for example, make a function add to do. And that could import to the database. And db dot insert to do, but the problem is it doesn't exist yet. See, there will be a red line because this one doesn't exist yet, and I'm going to explain why now. So if you want to create a new instance inside of a model, you have to use the creation thing from model types. And this helps you to know which parameters are needed to create a new item in your database for this thing. So we go to, now we can also use this other package that we made here, the to-do types, and we take to-do there. So the new to-do is this type format, see? So it should be a creation of a to-do. And then you can see that it has many parameters here, but mostly all of them are optional because they're gonna be automatically filled in by the database. All we need is a status, to do. In the beginning, it's still to do. An author, so we can also add that as a parameter. and a description, description, and a name. Although it seems that we didn't add name, or maybe title. Let's add it. Let's call it title. So now I save it. It's immediately being picked up by the parser, and then we can use it here. So then we insert the new to-do into the database, or upsert. We can also provide a config here, but you don't need to because it's in this case not needed. As you can see, it's still parsing, and now you see the red line. It also says that this thing still doesn't have the to-do still doesn't have the name property, but for that, because we are in a monorepo, we need to restart the TypeScript server if you change the type. So let's have a look if this is actually being built. Oh, sorry, we called it title. I was missing that. Forgot. So it's called title. So now this function should work, but the thing is that there's two little bugs. The first one is this is like a TypeScript error that I don't know yet how to get rid of. I have to fix that. So we have to unfortunately do ts ignore. And we can also make this an async function and say insert result equals wait, and then you get the query result. And you can also destructure that, and then you will see if it's successful and if there's a message. And you can also find information like how many things were inserted, right? So let's see what happens there. Okay, so now it should work. The only thing that's not done yet is that the model has not been added yet to the database, so it doesn't exist. And you could also have seen that because this, you see that there's only a Tokipona matrix. There's no to do. It doesn't exist yet. So that the reason is that we didn't regenerate the SDK. So we have to run generate SDK operations, and to make sure that it really works, first we're gonna do a dry run, which you can specify by marking it as true here, the first argument, dry run true, and then you will see that it tries to generate some files, and yeah, so one of them is SDK API, and yeah, you can see that it generates basically everything that's inside of the monorepo. It generates it into the SDK so that you can use all those functions in different places. But the one that is important to know is the generated folder. Sorry, the SDK DB. Because there we should see the to-do type now, and as you can see, it's there now from to-do types. So it's added to the SDK. So now I'm going to do it without dry run because it seems to be fine. And then I'm gonna do it for real, and yeah, then it's going to be added into the real SDKs here in the generated folder in your packages. It's better, by the way, to when you generate the SDKs to stop this one for a minute, because it should not really pick that up. I think it's better to not index anything there. Although I think it will skip it, but yeah, it's better to do that. As you can see, there's a little error here. That's like a little bug, but it does work. So just to confirm, I'm gonna check if the generated folders are all there. And there's like a little problem here because there seems to be a problem with renaming. That's also a little bug. So the file needs to, or the folder needs to be called without the one. Let's see why that happened. I don't know exactly, but Because it cannot delete the folder sometimes, and that's like a little bug that I still need to solve. The next version is already a lot better. Anyway, so now we have the SDK. Now when we restart the TypeScript server, we should be able to see the to-do in the model here. Yeah?
So I thought when it generates stuff like a SDK1,
Yeah.
then you should like delete the SDK1 folder, but you actually renamed it to
Yeah.
SDK, right?
Yeah, because that's the new one. The SDK1 is the new one.
Oh, okay.
Actually, yeah. So now you could see that the model exists. So now I can use it. So let's see how if it already does something. Okay. So we got, of course, we have the server still running, but because we changed the SDK, we need to restart it. Otherwise, it won't find the new things. So now I will go to the database user interface. I need to start it also, of course. And then you can see that the to-do is already here. See? So now I can. Oh. Okay. That's not expected. Well, there seems to be a problem with the database UI, which I didn't know. I don't know if you guys saw that, if you had that problem also. No, it doesn't seem to happen with this one. So there apparently seems to be a problem specifically for to-do. But yeah, normally you should get a form where you can fill in the to-do, okay? I think I know why. Because the to-do, it uses a description, and the description will be rendered with the writer UI. And that's why it crashes, because last week I was working on that and it was not fixed by then. So the new version, it will be fixed. Anyway, we don't need to use the database now, but it's also cool to note that we would also be able, for example now, to add it to the Markdown reader if we wanted. So let's for example here, in the public bundle config, we can add to-do types. Okay, so now if we would refresh this, I believe that it should appear here, yeah. So you can also add the description to your package, and it generated this documentation, see? So here you can also see what the possible values are of, like, it's a JS operation, there's no description set, but here you can exactly see what is inside of the model, yeah? So it's saved as a JSON multiple in the database. You can read more about that in typebase.org. Yeah, and here you can see what the possible values should be of this model. And yeah, that seems to be correct, although maybe not perfect, because status should be an enum, but yeah, it's still work in progress, obviously. Anyway, now it would also be nice to make a little front end. So let's go to the app folder, and what was the thing called again? So it's called web. That's the next website. Okay. So now I'm gonna run npx new operation. I'm gonna call it to do web, because that's kind of, oh sorry, and I forgot to use the web format, the web template. To do web, remove it, do it again, new operation to do web. So the type is web, and now what you get is a next project. So now we can also immediately run that and see what's in there, and it says hello world. Great. So now the cool thing, because we generated the SDK, is that it does a lot for you that you normally would need to do yourself, because we, for example, didn't even make a server or an endpoint, because it's already in typerepo, it will be generated for you. So if we want to add a to-do, we can use this API here So let's say we want to make a to-do. All we need to call is add to-do here. See? So we say API.add to-do, and you get everything that you also have in the function. So you have author, title, and description. So if we wanna do that, we can make a function here, for example, called add to-do that executes the API with those things. So what was it again? Author, title, and description. All right. So let's make a state in React that just uses those things. So empty state, author, set author, and then the same thing for title and description, because they all need to be strings. So now the next step would be to create a little form. I could also, by the way, use something that's called a function form. But I'm not going to do that today because that would take away too much of the stuff that happens on the water, because this is a component that will automatically create a form for you for the to-do. But maybe we can do it after we do it ourselves first. So this is, so we can just make like an input, for example, from React with native, and we can say value equals author, on change equals event set author e target value, and what else? Class name. Let's make it a little bit more clear. I'm not gonna do a lot of design today, but yeah, let's just make it a bit clear where the inputs will be located. So now this one has to be set title, and this one has to be set description. And then let's see what happens. So we get three beautiful inputs next to each other. So maybe we put it in a P, and we say, sorry, let's import it, and we say, what was it? Author, title, and description. I think it's nicer this way, maybe. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's great. And now we need to have a button, of course. Let's use the big button. That's there's a lot of things that I have used in the other user interfaces, like the database. That's already in typerepo, and you can normally find it in the modules. So this one is called big button, which is rendering a big button in a predefined style. Or let's say add, okay? And onClick equals add to do. And I don't know. We can also do a loading state later. But let's see what it looks like first. So yeah, we have now have the button connected to the API. And let's see what happens. So I clicked and there's no feedback because we also didn't have any feedback here. We don't show anything to the user after it's being submitted. But let's have a look if it worked. Maybe it didn't even work. But it seems that in the database now you can find the to-dos JSON, and you can also see that there's, yeah, it did work. See? So that's great. But I think there's now a couple of things that are missing. The most important being that, yeah, you don't get any feedback when you submit it. So that's a bit silly. We can improve that by making this an async function and waiting for the results. And then saying await for that result. And then you can see that there is something there. And you get, like, if it's successful to execute the function, this will be true. You also get the result of the function itself, but in this case it's void, it's nothing, right? Because in add to do in the backend, we also didn't return anything. We didn't return any response. We can do that, for example, if we want to return the absurd result, which we could do. We just return that like that. Then it would return that. But then, in order to see that change, we need to rebuild this file first. Anyway, we're not going to do that now. First, I'm just going to wait for the API, and then I'm just going to use an alert. This one from React with native alerts, and then I can say alert edit your to-do. Oh, I need to, because it can be null, I need to specify like the question mark dot to make sure that it will not crash. So now it's great, but I forgot one thing. I need to reset the form after you set the to-do. So I'm just doing it like that. All right, so now let's try it again. And you say edit your to-do. Okay, great, and the form is empty. And it will be in the database, of course. Boom. So that's the first step. And now we have to the next step would be maybe, of course, to see your to-do. We can either make a new endpoint and rebuild the SDK, or new function, rebuild the SDK so it's also an endpoint, and then call the to-dos here and then render them. But we can also do something else, which is maybe also good to know, is that because it's a type repo, there's a lot of functions already from the other user interfaces like the database that you can just reuse if you want. So, for example, this one is really one I really like, is the queries object. So we can say to-dos query equals queries dot use get db model, which is a function. Get db model is a function that's used in the database admin to get all the information for a model. So as you can see, all the models are here. And now we can just insert to do, and it will probably get all the to-dos. We can also pass a config. For example, we can have filter, sort, limit. A lot of information is already there. So you can just use that if you want. Just have a look in the queries model and the API object, just to have a look what functions are available, because there's already a lot available. Also in the SDK, of course, you can see that. So now we have kind of done a React query hook here, the to-dos query. And now if we want to render that, we can say like to-dos query is loading, then show like loading. Otherwise, we can show to-dos query data results data. It's a bit deep, but that's because this is React query, this is the API, and this is the result of that function, because it also has some more information about your model, basically. So this should be a array, so we can map that, and we can say to item, and we can return something about the to-do. So, oh, this is strange. Wait a minute. So it says here, there's a little problem here. As you can see, it doesn't really type it well. And I wonder why. I've never seen that before, but yeah, maybe Maybe that's a problem with this function that we have created for the database. But it's not that important. If we want to type it, we can just say to-do is a to-do. Import from to-do types, to-do. And we can cast the to-do, all right? So that doesn't work like this because it cannot be casted like that, but we can do it like this. Const real to-do equals to-do as to-do. So that's how you can also cast it. If it doesn't work like that, you can kind of force TypeScript to think that this is really a to-do. So now we can use real to-do dot, and there you get the title and description. So let's have a look. As you can see here, there are the to-dos. See? So this is basically how you create a to-do list. It's super ugly right now, but yeah, let's do a little bit of styling then. Make it look a little better. Still not good though. But yeah, if you have more time, you can do that yourself. So yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
so I think this ended up being a great tutorial. I mean, will this be available on YouTube later?
Sure. We can do that.
Nice.
Yeah. So maybe we want to add the author here as well. Real to do author. Yeah, I hope it was clear. We just created a full stack application that does something simple. Just want to demonstrate that it's also possible to do something like more easily with the component function form that I really like personally. This is a React page, so we are like a Next.js page, so we have to use export default. We can use return function form, and we can import the index of the to-do, index from to-do types, db, ts interfaces, or interfaces, to-do, see? So now we can pass that in the ts function parameter. We can say initial values if you want, but you don't need to. We can say with API results. That's a callback that takes the results, and you can do anything you want. Like, yeah, maybe we want to also show the alert here. Equals use alerts, edit to do. Okay. So yeah. Let's see if we are done. Hide result it means that it doesn't show the JSON output of the function, which was the default. And then you can also pass initial values if you want, but let's not do that now. And now I just really quickly made this. Let's see if it works. Or maybe this one also crashes because the okay. So it doesn't work. That's a pity. Let's see if if it doesn't. The reason why it does not work is probably because it didn't generate this thing well. So there's this function here. But if you look in the database, you see that it does have the parameters. But yeah, I think that there might be something wrong here. There could be a problem here, but although I don't really see why it doesn't find the parameters. But yeah, so unfortunately can't show you this, but this should normally render the form, so it's way quicker to make front ends this way, because you only need to specify a good function and you already have a front end for it to execute. Yeah, but it doesn't always work the way I want it, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm always improving typerepo, and yeah, maybe next week there will be a new version where there's a lot more possibilities. You'll see. So yeah, thanks. I think this was, yeah, what time is it? 41 past 3. I mean, we can do a little more if you want. Do you? But maybe you already have some questions first. Yeah, of course, we could do that. So, in order to do that, we can do two things. We can either use the functions that are already available from the admin, or we can create a function first. So let's now create a function again, just to demonstrate how that would work. So remove to do, for example, and we need the ID of the to do, and then we can db dot remove to do, where the item ID equals the ID, and that's it. Okay, so I'm gonna save it. Wait a minute, where's the, it's not listening anymore. Well, we can also use rebuild operation dot, so that means it will rebuild the operation in the folder where I'm at. So now it will install it, it will have a look, and it will create the new function in the database. So there will be appearing a file here soon. And after that, all we need to do is run the SDK generation, because every new function first needs to be in the SDK. So you see the files here, and now we should be able to regenerate SDK operations. So let's just do it immediately. And then in here maybe we can add a little icon here to delete. Oh wait, I already see one here. So we can have this one. We can use clickable icon maybe. I don't know why it's doing it like this, but we can just use it like that. I like the clickable icon. We can say if you click on that, we want to call API dot remove to do real to do dot ID, right? And then we want to make sure that after that's done, that the to-dos are updated again. So we need to call to do query dot refetch, because this is a React query. We can just do that immediately, like that. So emoji equals this one, and yeah, let's have a look how it looks. Where is it? It's localhost 3000, of course. So we got a little thing here now. Looks a bit ugly that it's on a new line, but and it also doesn't seem to be working. But why is that? Because we didn't restart the server after the after regenerating the SDK. So let's try again now, and you can see that it works. To-dos are gone. And if you check the database, then you will see that the to-dos are also gone here. The to-dos file is not even there anymore. So we can add a to-do. The to-do doesn't refresh yet because we didn't add the same thing here, right? So we can say to-dos query dot refetch. Okay. Yeah. And also, of course, updating a to-do, we need to change the status, right? That would be nice. So real to-do dot status. And maybe if you click here, again, it's not gonna look super pretty, but I just wanna do this within an hour. Then we can do something like API dot we do have absurd DB model, so let's try to use that one, okay? So it uses the data that you want to insert, and that's again a creation of a to-do, and we can use the real to-do here, and then we change the status, right? So we say maybe done. Let's change it to done. So then we have the updated to do, we put it in there, and we say because you upsert, it will also insert it if the ID is not found yet. But in this case, we overwrite, we use the real to do that was already there with an ID, so it will not insert a new one, it will just update it. So we can also optionally provide the isNew parameter that will make sure that it will be inserted. Result. So first we're gonna wait for this to finish, and then again I think this is a little bug. Unfortunately, I didn't see that before, but I will work to improve that. But then we can just to-dos query dot refetch again, and we'll see the results. So maybe we can do like a little nice styling before I check it, and maybe we can say status equals to do. Maybe then we can show this one, or real to do status equals doing. Maybe then we can show this one, and otherwise it's this one. So let's have a look. So that's strange. It seems that this one, I don't know if I click there. Oh yeah, okay. It just changes the order because I updated. So it's not a big deal, but it looks a bit weird. So that's something we can do next time maybe. Anyway, it seems to be working. So maybe it would be nice also to change the status based on what the current status is. So real to do dot status equals to do. Then the new status is gonna be doing. Or if the real to do status equals doing, then it's gonna be done, right? And otherwise it's gonna become to do. So now we're kind of see, you can see that it's kind of looping through all the statuses.
Nice.
That's it. I think we should end the tutorial now. So this is how you start a typerepo project by creating. What we did is we created first, of course, the 3 different packages: the type package, the node package, and the to-do web package, it's very important to understand that you have to create these separate packages. It doesn't work otherwise, because you have a backend, you have a front end, and you have some package that needs to be able to be used anywhere. So on the backend and the front end. So that's why this one is Common.js, this one is Node, and this one is front end UI, Next.js, right? So that's why you have 3 different packages. Thanks for watching. Anything else? Any other questions? I think the meeting is also ending soon. Maybe that was that noise. So I'll stop recording now. Thanks. Unless there's any question that wants to be included in the video, but yeah, I'll stop.